Hey there, we have like eons of stories to tell, so if you want to follow us along on this journey and keep up with all the stories that we have putting out, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. Hey, what is up, y'all? Chad is here, and today we are going to be continuing with the ending of Avengers versus X-Men, pretty much, right? This is the very last video, and it goes on. It ends with a bang. All right, it's a pretty good ending. It's an okay ending. All right, the final battle is pretty cool, but everything that comes after, it's like, I mean, it ends kind of quick. I'll say it like that, right? So where we left off at, Spider-Man had just took out the Phoenix Magic and Phoenix Colossus, right? He just took both of them. Well, they took out their cells. He just, orchestrated all of it. Cyclops showed up in Kunlun, right? And everyone is just getting up out of there, right? So Iron Fist, he has hope, and he's basically gonna try to like fend off Cyclops, so Hope can get away. Isn't gonna really do much, cause like Iron Fist has no real chance here against any portion of the Phoenix Force, right? Like literally, it's very quick, right? Like he goes in to try to attack him and just gets seized immediately, right? And during this time, it actually gives Hope enough time to actually get away, right? And go find Louis Cheung, right? And basically, when that's happening, Iron Man shows up, right? So with where Hope is going, she's basically going to learn more about the Iron Fist, right? To basically learn their training style, the way they fight, to learn how to hone their powers, pretty much, right? Because she can use that in tandem with like the Phoenix power and actually fight like that, right? Which will be a major power. Like she's more powerful than any normal Iron Fist, right? So she ends up getting away. And basically we go to Utopia, right? Like we skipped over to Utopia about what's going on there. And basically Emma Frost has lost it, right? Like she's literally treating the students at Utopia basically like servants, right? Like they try to speak up to her, and she's basically like shutting everything down that they're saying, right? Like she's working more as a dictator of Utopia than as a teacher or a leader or something like that. And Magneto sees this, right? Like Magneto, he's watching it, and he's like, you can't treat your your students like this, right? Like, and basically her response is, what have you done in your life to make you able to put you in a position where you're able to talk down upon stuff that I do? You're just like what Cyclops used to be, right? And Magneto knows that that's the truth. Like Cyclops right now is basically what Magneto used to be back in like the 80s and stuff like that when he first popped up on the scene, right? An extremist, right? So with that happening, we go back to Kunlun, right? So Hope, she made her way to Louis Cheung, and basically, she's like learning and stuff like that. And they show back up to fight back off on Cyclops, because right now at this point, the Avengers had shown up and they were just getting destroyed by Cyclops again, right? So they pretty much show up, right? And Hope, she's like, she's learning about what her powers are, right? Like she's learning that she could take powers of other things, right? And basically, like there's this dragon, and she's like using the powers of the dragon to like blast Cyclops, right? And she's like, like freaking out. She's like, oh, what was that, right? And she like takes off, right? So when that happens, she runs into Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, Beast, all those different people, right? And basically what's happening now is she's actually using the combined powers of the Phoenix and the Scarlet Witch's powers and sends Cyclops flying, right? Like he shows up, literally gets one punched all the way to the moon. Like she literally punches this dude all the way into the moon, right? So when that happens, Cyclops, he realizes that he can't do this by himself, right? Like Hope, she's too much, she's too powerful. Her copying abilities, they're way too potent. Like there's not a whole lot that he can do, right? Especially with the Scarlet Witch right next to her, right? So with that happening, Magneto in Utopia, he's basically reaching out to Charles Xavier, right? Asking him for help, saying that they basically can't do what they're trying to do without him, pretty much, because he's gonna be key in orchestrating the entirety of the ending of this fight, right? Basically keeping Cyclops out of the way for a bit, right? So when that happens, the Avengers, right? Like they don't have Cyclops on their back. Emma Frost, she's off doing her own thing. They basically have time to like gather their forces, right? Like get more people to help. So the first place that they go to is basically, they go to the deserts, right? And they're basically looking for the Incredible Hulk, who's been gone for a really long time by this time in the Marvel Comics, right? From there, they go to Wisconsin, right? Because Rogue, she's like, like she's reaching out to them, saying that the Phoenix, Cyclops, and Emma Frost are basically, treating them bad. They have to be stopped, stuff like that. They're basically reaching out to the Avengers, and they're gonna help the Avengers, right? So the Avengers show up, they come and get Rogue and all the other X-Men and stuff, and they leave. So in Utopia, when all this is happening, while the Avengers are gathering their forces and stuff like that in Utopia, the Cyclops and Emma Frost, they're just having this crazy conversation, right? Like this is literally showing how far they have fallen up to this point, right? Because it's actually insane, right? So what they're doing is, right, you know, they're talking, and basically Emma Frost, she's like throwing out this idea that, you know, like we have all this power, right? Like we can literally just burn everything away and make it back in our image. Like why don't you want to do that, right? And Cyclops, he's just like, no, we can't do that. And basically both of them at this point are thinking, you know, like I should take this other person out so I can, you know, like get the rest of the power of the Phoenix Force, right? You know, they're basically like both thinking that, right? So with that happening, like they're both realizing, you know, with all their power flaring up, right? Like they're literally like unleashing all this power, like just during their conversation, and they're realizing it's corrupting them, right? Like the corruption is actually taking over them. With that happens, Cyclops, you know, he realizes something, right? Like he feels something, right? And basically, on the beach, Charles Xavier is pretty much just like communicating, you know, telepathically. So Cyclops, he shows up and he's like listening to him, and he's basically like trying to resist, you know, Charles Xavier's what he's basically telling them, right? Because Charles Xavier, he's not, you know, arguing with Cyclops anymore. He's not saying stand down, you know, none of that stuff. He's basically saying, I'm gonna just turn your brain off because you're not listening, you're corrupted, I have to do this, right? And Cyclops, you know, he thinks he's kidding up until the point where Charles Xavier reveals he's already, you know, he already has Cyclops inside his own mind. Everything outside of Cyclops' mind, he doesn't know what's going on. But all the Avengers are there, shutting, like basically fighting him off. All the Avengers are there fighting off Emma Frost when she shows up. They're basically all there, and Cyclops has no idea. He's basically just talking to Charles Xavier in his mind, right? So when that happens, Charles Xavier, you know, he starts like taking down Cyclops, right? You know, like trying to just keep him out of the fight, right? So when that happens, basically the Scarlet Witch shows up and they end up blasting him, right? Like basically taking Cyclops down pretty much. Cyclops, you know, he just starts fighting back, right? And against all these different Avengers, right? Like it's a pretty big battle. Like they're not able to like keep him down for too long. Like he gets up and he'll go back down, and then he'll get up and then he'll go back down, right? Until the point where he realizes he needs more power, right? So what he does is he goes right up to Emma Frost, blasts her out of the sky, takes her down, literally incapacitates her, and steals her portion of the Phoenix Force, right? Literally becoming the entirety of the Phoenix itself. He is the Phoenix, right? And his first action is basically to kill Charles Xavier. Goes up to him, whacks him, literally just killed him on the spot, right? When that happens, like all these different people, they just start trying to go back in and like take down Cyclops, right? And none of it is happening, right? Like he's literally just like destroying all of these guys, right? So it's a pretty big battle because like Thor, Hulk, like all these Red Hulk, all these different like heavy hitters, people who could actually like do a lot of damage, they aren't doing anything, right? Like they're literally being taken out with the greatest of ease, right? So when that happens, eventually it comes to a point where Nova shows back up, right? And even Nova, with all the power that he has, can't do nothing. He just gets taken out as soon as he shows up, right? All the way until the point Hope and Scarlet Witch show up. Here we go with the actual main deal, right? Because Scarlet Witch, her powers are already like really just vast in itself. Hope Summers being able to copy the powers of the Phoenix and copy the powers of Scarlet Witch, there's not really much that Cyclops is going to be able to do against those two, and that's what shows in this fight, right? Because they are fighting and there's nothing he can do, right? Like he is getting destroyed at this point, right? And it actually comes to the point where he actually regains himself, right? Like the power of the Phoenix is like, you know, like he's like, okay, y'all gotta kill me before I, you know, mess himself up again, and the Phoenix takes right back over, right? So when that happens, Hope Summers, she shows back up and they literally just go back to work on Cyclops, right? Literally just knocking him out up until the point where the Phoenix releases itself, right? Now when that happens, it starts calling to Hope Summers, right? Like she's like hearing it, right? And we cut back to a few days ago, right? And basically she's talking to Captain America, and you know, like Captain America is like asking her like what's gonna happen, you know, when the Phoenix leaves Cyclops, like what are you gonna do? And she's basically saying, I'm gonna take it into myself, right? Like no one else can control it. I'm gonna take it for myself, right? And basically Captain America is saying, okay, yeah, that's cool if you do that, but you know, you might trust you, but you know, like how are you gonna, why would I trust you? Like why should I trust you? What are you gonna do with these powers for us to be like, okay, go ahead, Hope, keep the power, right? Like what are you gonna do, right? So as soon as this power gets into her, right, she like takes all of it into herself and she takes off, right? Iron Man's like following her around. Basically what he's telling everybody else is that she's basically repairing the planet, right? Like she's taking out all these different fires, like all the destruction that the Phoenix was causing. She's basically like fixing it pretty much, right? And she shows back up to where the Avengers are, and they're basically like looking at her, and she's saying, no, I am not the person that you knew before. I am the White Phoenix, which probably shouldn't be possible, but I mean, you know, just think of what it is. And Scarlet Witch actually shows up, and what she's saying is, you can't keep this power, okay? Like, yeah, we said, you know, you're the perfect host for the Phoenix, but you can't keep this power, okay? That's not why this fight was fought. Like, we did this so we can get rid of the Phoenix, not so we can, you know, trade one out for the other, right? So they look at each other, they grab hands, and they say, no more Phoenix. And the Phoenix Force dissipates, right? And when that happens, this is like the ending of the story. Like the very last like thing that actually happens here is the fact that like there's more mutants now. Like when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants back in House of M, that was like the last that they had ever shown up in terms of, you know, them being born and stuff like that. But here there's more mutants now. Like the Phoenix came, it dissipated, and it basically brought life more it basically brought back life toward the mutant community, right? Like bringing more of them into it, aside from the normal ones who were there before, right? So if you enjoyed the story, leave a like. It wrapped up kind of quick. Like that was mostly what I was talking about. It wraps up like super quick. But yeah, if you enjoyed the story, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel here, and I will see y'all in the next one.